There have been so many different named locations on the Fortnite maps over the past years, and there are a lot of ways to judge which is the best or the worst. So I'm going to separate it all out into different categories, including best looking, the competitiveness, and general memorableness. So here we go. Let's start with the best looking POI, and I've chosen Lazy Lagoon for this one. I absolutely loved the visual design of this place. Situated in a secluded low elevation area surrounded by beaches and trees, it really transported you to a different world, which was always part of the magic of Fortnite. The pirate ship was a work of art, and it created a great balance between the boat and the shoreline. It's these types of imaginative and immersive POIs that I always wish we had more of. You may have also heard of this guy called Ninja who put the world's eyes on Lazy Lagoon when he was landing there during the 29 World Cup qualifiers. An honorary mention goes to Colossal Coliseum, which I thought was such a cool place to explore, as if you were really back in a giant Roman stadium. I picked out Camiseti Antique qualifying for Grand Finals and an endgame there as my most memorable moment from that POI. Personally, I enjoyed landing there, which may be a hint of bias, but I really do think that it was a fantastically designed place in terms of looks, even if you couldn't build in a load of places. For the worst aesthetics, Retail Row is the winner for me. It is the most stereotypical example of taking a set of boring buildings and making an equally boring POI from them. There are a number of POIs that have been like this, notably Pleasant Park, Salty Springs, and now Coney Crossroads. There's nothing remarkable or intriguing about them. You just see one building and then go to the next. There's no beautiful scenery or any sense of exploration and adventure. Certain players seen in these clips have brought Retail Row into the spotlight at times, but I'd love to see a lot less of these types of POI in the future. In the best competitive category, I'm judging it on one criteria only, which is the competitive entertainment value of the place, and the Grotto is the winner for me. It has its issues in competitive with the fact that the mythic minigun wasn't the fairest weapon to come against, but I just think as a spectator that Tfue and Scoped against Chap and AV was the best off-spawn we've ever had, and that means a lot coming from an EU guy. You had people trying to land above on the pylon, you had all the vents, you had the strategy of the vault, and it all resulted in some great clashes between these players. I'm definitely not alone in wishing that this POI was around for more than one season. The Cavern in Chapter 3 is based on a similar idea, but on a much larger scale. And although there is always off-spawn clashes there in tournament, it's just too much, with 4 or 5 teams always there and so many different areas to it. I will always be a fan of the original Grotto and not the new one at this rate. For worst competitive, I know I'll ruffle a few feathers here with my choice of Stark Industries. I'll give you my reasons though. The drop was a true 50-50 one, with anywhere up to 10 people trying to land on one headroom chest. After that mess, you have a boss who just won't leave you alone and is very tough to kill. Then on the south side, you had a cliff that was so large and steep that many endgames were totally ruined when Zone went up and down there, and the area on the north side was just so far in the corner of the map and so high up that nobody cared for that either. While the Marvel stuff was kind of cool, it was not competitive. In EU FNCS, Tayson, Mongrel and Mitra had the place to themselves for half the tournament, and a big part of the reason that they ran away with FNCS on day 1 was because of the power of the POI with its gold and purple Stark rifles and endless other loot. Unfortunately, this led to a little bit of a boring tournament unless you were big fanboys of this trio, in which case you probably thought that the POI was the best idea ever. All in all, I was happy when it left the map. I'll also give an honorary mention here to Polar Peak, which was a really fun place for casuals, but the iceberg with its huge cliffs that you sometimes couldn't even build off just ruined so many games. Also a mention to Coral Castle, which never got an endgame in its entire lifespan and was ditched over and over again by pro teams. For the most iconic POI, there is surely a clear winner we can all agree on. Tilted Towers is the poster boy of Fortnite locations. It first entered the game in Chapter 1 Season 2 and was immediately a hit with its fairly central position and large buildings that begged for the whole lobby to land there. It was where you went if you wanted to drop a high kill game, no matter whether you were a solo, a squad, or even playing solo squads. As Chapter 1 progressed, it went through several incarnations such as Neo Tilted, which was present during the World Cup. You also had the Wild West themed Tilted Town and the Batman collab of Gotham City, and it was even completely destroyed at one point and made into a large crater area. It half returned briefly in Chapter 2 with Salty Towers, but finally we got the original version back in Chapter 3, much to the delight of the community. So many iconic moments have happened there that it would be impossible to list them all, but I know that Nick, Mercs and Aiden will always be the true owners of Tilted Towers. On the opposite end of the scale, you have some POIs that were generally only around for a short time but were forgotten even quicker. Considering that 2 versions of Starry Suburbs appeared in different seasons, it's amazing how little we ever cared for it, and most of you probably forgot that it existed until I just mentioned it. Another place that was as unmemorable is Rickety Rig, which was in Chapter 2 Season 3, the underwater season. I might have been there a couple of times, but I have no memories of the place, and I can't name anyone who I saw landing there. It's amazing that some places that were around for a season, like the Grotto, are never forgotten, while others like these are resigned to only appearing in videos like this. Let's finish with the POI that I think is the most underrated and deserves more credit. Risky Reels was in Chapter 1 from Seasons 4 to 10, and although it wasn't a named location on the map for a lot of that time, it was never forgotten. It wasn't the most exciting place ever, but it was always in the back of our minds. Then we had Chapter 2, where again it wasn't a named location, but with its centre map position it became a very important place, yet still wasn't talked about much. I feel like in Chapter 3 it's finally getting some more recognition. It is a named location, morphed from Risky Reels into Rocky Reels, and with the name upgrade came a big loot upgrade, making it a very viable drop for 1 or more duos. We all have a place on either this map or a previous map that is more special to us than the others. Whether that's the nostalgia because you landed there in Chapter 1, or maybe you made some crazy plays there more recently, well, I'd be interested to know which one it is for you. So let me know in the comments. Thanks for the support, and I will see you next time.